The clearest images yet of the extent of damage that's been carried out at various air bases in Pakistan. And today, on this special broadcast, we'll tell you the reason why Pakistan was forced to seek ceasefire on the 10th of May. The images that we're about to show you will show you the extent of damage on ground at 13 Pakistan Air Force bases and radars, damage to aircraft, damage to their ground weapons storage facilities, their command and control structures, and their highways. This is evidence of the highest imposition of cost yet on a state sponsor of radical Islamist terror.
Attack हुआ है नूर खान बेस पे.
True horror of IF skyfall on Pakistan. Hangars blown open, radars in ruin. Devastating hits at Pakistani air bases exposed. Explosive evidence of Indian Air Force's clean strikes. Pakistan's airbase annihilation is our top focus on India First. India Today has accessed the clearest and the latest satellite images of the destruction at the Noor Khan Air Base. And Noor Khan is one of the most important air bases in Pakistan. At Bholari, their latest air base at Sindh, at Mureed air bases. These are multiple air bases where Indian Air Force struck. The damage is far greater than initially assessed and expected. The damage to the air bases from Jacobabad to Rahim Yar Khan and from Sargodha, that's 200 kilometers plus inside Pakistan. So these were strikes that were very deep inside Pakistan that have shaken Pakistan to the core. Former Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Bhadoria joins me in a moment from now. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's get started with the headlines on India First. The Congress party versus Shashi Tharoor war is out in the open. Top Congress leaders share Udit Raj's post calling Tharoor a BJP spokesperson. Tharoor had credited Prime Minister Narendra Modi for surgical strikes on Pakistan. Under fire for saying Kannada was born out of Tamil, Kamal Hassan clarifies but refuses to apologize. Kannada groups threaten to boycott all his films. A year before Tamil Nadu elections, NDA's formal invite to TVK. Top BJP leadership wanted tie-up with Vijay. AIA DMK pitches for the alliance, says TVK wants DMK's ouster. Donald Trump halts new student visas, orders missions to stop new visa applications, already scheduled visa appointments to continue. Top Putin aide and former Russian president warns Donald Trump of World War III. The US slams Russia for stoking fears, calls the comments unfortunate and reckless. So after Pakistani armed forces tried to escalate, attempting to strike Indian air bases and strategic assets in response to India successfully targeting 9 terror camps, including the headquarters of Lashkar-e-Taiba at Mureed and Jaish-e-Mohammed's Bahawalpur facility, the Indian armed forces were forced in retaliation to strike even deeper inside Pakistan. So from Skardu in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir down to Bholari in Sindh. But the major hits and massive hits were in Pakistan's Punjab province. And we have the latest satellite images from the Noor Khan Air Base. We'll also, of course, tell you about what happened at Rahim Yar Khan and Sargodha and Jacobabad. But we will show you satellite images of what happened at Mureed Air Base. We will tell you what happened at various Pakistani Air Force bases. And these strikes were not symbolic. They were demonstrative, no doubt. They were a signal of intent, but the damage caused was intense, and would hurt the Pakistan army for a very long time to come, because a pauper Pakistan that's anyway been waging this terror war against India, with that nuclear bogey, now it has no place to run and no place to hide. India Today's accessed satellite images that reveal the real extent of the damage. In a moment from now, Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadoria, former Chief of Air Staff, he will join us to discuss these satellite images and the impact on Pakistan. But first, India Today's Sandeep Unithan and our bureau colleagues get you more in this report.
ये सिर्फ आक्रोश नहीं है, ये समर्थ भारत का रौद्र रूप है। ये भारत का नया स्वरूप है।
The message is clear. Any act of terror will be treated as an act of war. During Operation Sindhur, India rained fire on Pakistan after the terror state tried to attack Indian military infrastructure in response to India's attacks on terror hubs. After Pakistan's misadventures, India, in multiple precision strikes, hit 11 of their air bases, making them completely dysfunctional. Bholari was one of the worst hit. The Indian missile strike on a particular hangar damaged one SAB 2000 AVAX and 3 to 4 Western origin fighter aircraft. India used indigenous BrahMos missiles to carry out strikes at this airbase. The satellite images show a hole in the hangar rooftop and major damage inside the hangar. Not just Bholari, other air bases including Mureed and Noor Khan also sustained considerable damages. The satellite images show the impact of the missile strikes that made a crater of 3 meters on the ground. The munition impact was just 30 meters from a crucial underground facility, which could be a weapon stockpile. Another attack at the compound damaged a drone complex and other structures at the airbase. A similar sight was seen at the Noor Khan airbase, where earth movers were used to remove the damaged structures. Pakistan lost at least 35 to 40 personnel in these attacks. Bureau Report, India Today.
Operation Sindhur was all about the effective employment of air power and missile power, and Indian air power was able to deliver. India Today has exclusively accessed the latest satellite images. They've been analyzed at length, and they show you the extent of damage caused to Pakistan's air bases that forced Pakistan to seek a ceasefire, literally plead for a ceasefire on the afternoon of the 10th of May. Joining me now on this India Today special broadcast for his impressions on these satellite images is Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadoria, former Chief of Air Staff. Sir, a privilege to have you on this special broadcast with us. Thank you for joining us. I want to take our viewers through some of these images that India Today has accessed from Maxar and also from Ditresfa. Let's take a look at the first image that's coming in from the Bholari airbase in Sindh. And this was a deep strike in Pakistan's Sindh province. The latest airbase, their newest airbase, and targeted, and how. We've got two images on your screens, one before and after the strike, and that is a hangar. There's a precision strike. Air Chief Marshal Bhadoria, your impressions of the structural damage, the damage to the roof and what was inside. What can you tell us?
From what I can make out from the satellite pictures which came earlier, this is much more clearer and closer and much more explicit. And very clearly the kind of damage that you see from the roof, and the weapon has gone straight inside. Nothing inside this hangar would have survived.
Nothing
so
inside.
there is
hangar
going to be
size.
AWC inside this hangar, and there would be whatever else kept inside in terms of systems, in terms of if any other operation that was there. Nothing would survive in this hangar because the weapon real blast is inside the hangar.
Yeah,
so
it penetrates
that is
and then
impressive.
explodes.
Yes, very much so.
So
And you can make out where the weapon has gone, and some of the impact which will be hangar door you can see strewn in front.
Yes.
So this is very clearly a big hit, a very strategic target and a very major loss for Pakistan Air Force.
So we are told that a Saab 2000, their advanced early warning command and control aircraft, that was lost. We are also told by sources that they've lost some Western fighter jets. Could be 3 to 4. Would it be F-16s? Could it be Mirage 3 or 5?
I think if you're talking of air-to-ground strikes, what was stuck at Jakovabad, the pictures that we saw earlier, would be F-16s.
Would be
because
F-16s.
the hardened shelters that were stuck there. Here, of course, is Saab 2000.
Now, how major a loss would be for a country like Pakistan to lose an advanced early warning command and control system?
It's a major loss in terms of not only combat equipment, it's a loss in terms of, immediately if they have to deploy, they lose a major asset. But more importantly, it is in the context that this was done, it is a clear signal of how accurately their assets can be targeted. And this is just a demonstration. There were just, 9, on the 10th morning, 9 of those targets taken.
Correct.
They could have taken 20. On those 9 targets, they could have taken 20 more targets. So much more was possible. But it was in a controlled and graded manner, looking at the situation. And it was a very clear message. One is targeting and getting the asset. In this context, I think it is very clearly driven home. And these are assets.
Yes.
You should remember what was done to their air defense center itself. Their control centers that were knocked off, their radars that were knocked off. So a big hole was created in their entire air defense network in terms of capability. And they were blinded in that zone. And none of our weapons practically, all the weapons have hit. So maybe leave aside 1 or 2, every weapon has hit its target. They have not been able to intercept anything. Yep. And that is because the way their air defense network was taken out.
So, Pakistan and, SIAD, suppression of enemy air defenses, as you taught us quite some time back, SIAD was the first critical part of our operations, successful in Pakistan's Punjab province, successful in the Sindh province. Yeah. What does this say about the Chinese air defense systems that Pakistan has?
No, it says more about our attack capability and ability to take out. The Chinese systems in terms of HQ series that they had provided, they have a certain level of capability going from 200, 300 kilometers, depending on which radar and which missile combination you're talking about. Those were networked, those were provided in large numbers, but we created the holes where they were required. So it was a demonstration of our capability to disrupt any such network and do what we want. I think that is important.
Bholari, there were also losses of lives, and we're told major losses of lives of Pakistan Air Force personnel.
Yes, I've seen those some of those videos and reports, and I think it would have happened probably because of this strike.
In this hangar.
Yeah.
Would they have been trying to retrieve the aircraft or park the aircraft inside?
Whatever.
In hardened
some
pens?
operations, it could be systems, it could be this. But if it has happened, I think this is one of the places where there could be people and it would have stuck.
I now want to shift focus to the other site, and that's equally crucial. This is Pakistan Air Force Base, Mureed. Like Noor Khan, a very significant, whether you talk about Mureed or you talk about Jacobabad, you talk about Rahim Yar Khan, you talk about Noor Khan, Mushaf, which is Sargodha. Take a look at the Mureed sites, sir, both before and after. This satellite imagery is courtesy Maxar, and if you look at the strike, after the strike, not only was the roof damaged, a section of the roof caved in. What is even more severe, the UAV hangars 1 and 2, after the strike, they've been destroyed, and there's a huge hole that's come up there. What would that indicate, sir?
Yeah, so this again, it's a very carefully chosen target to destroy some of their assets and the control center. And you see the kind of results which are now more explicitly visible in these satellite pictures. So it's a target that you see the kind of damage that is shown. And these pictures have been taken, I think, after a gap of a couple of days.
A week, almost a week later.
Yeah, and some of the debris is probably removed. But you see the nature of that damage. Nothing there and its vicinity would survive. And for airborne assets or any other assets, any damage on any of the surfaces, it disables it. It disables it. More importantly, the command centers and all those get written off.
So that is the underground storage facility. You can look at the hardened shelter. You can look at that narrow entrance in that picture. When you take out, what would that indicate, sir?
No, clearly whatever storage facility they have hit there, that hit is almost in the center of it, and it has gone cleanly. From top, you would always see a small hole.
Yes.
The weapon would go inside and
then blast
explode.
off.
And on a facility that is enclosed like this, the blast effect and the damage is even more when it is in an underground thing. So again, inside this, whatever existed there would be disabled.
So a 3-meter crater, it's really deep. In some areas, we are told that the Pakistanis subsequently, they not only brought in JCBs, but they removed everything from that area.
Yeah.
Would that be an indication that that entire building or that entire structure is now a write-off?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
So their assets are gone, their structures are gone, their command and control centers are gone?
Yeah, command and, see, the focus was totally to take out, after the first 2 nights, some radars that were taken out, important radar networks, and then the air defense centers, command and control centers, 3 of them were knocked off, and then the assets on the airfield. On the airfield, lots of strategic assets or important assets, hardened shelters, the weapon storages, and targets on the runway itself. If you see the entire target length of all the 9 bases that were struck. Important thing is that everything was struck very precisely, and the damage is there to see. No, they can't hide it. They are not accepting it, but the whole world has seen it.
Oh, absolutely. Because all those who were saying, kya kiya, itni jaldi ceasefire, kyun kar diya, they need to see the extent of damage on ground. And this is unprecedented. It's never happened in the past. And now I want to focus
and वो ceasefire हमने नहीं किया.
हाँ.
वो the kind of damage done on 10th morning, ये ceasefire का request पाकिस्तानी DGMO से आया है.
सही बात है.
So there is no question that हमने ceasefire मांगा या हमने accept कर लिया. हमने accept जरूर किया because this thing. And it was always the case that they were told, do not escalate. If you do any damage to our military targets, we will hit you back. Yes. So it was a graded hitting back. But on the 10th morning, the levels and precision that was done, they just gave up. It must be understood. There is a lot of, I think,
in this fog of war, information or misinformation warfare from the Pakistani side. You're saying Pakistan gave up.
Of course, after the result of this 10th strike, that is when they have decided to stop.
I'll tell you one more reason, and I want you to look at the Noor Khan Air Base. And Noor Khan is Aankhon ka Noor, if I may, for Pakistan. It is right between Islamabad and Rawalpindi. It's the seat of power in Pakistan. Islamabad is like the secondary seat of power. The main seat of power is Rawalpindi, which is general headquarters. And this Noor Khan Air Base is right next to general headquarters in Rawalpindi. And that was struck. And how? I want you to look at those images with Air Chief Marshal Bhadoria. Proof of Noor Khan Air Base hit and the manner in which it was hit. The airbase, the runway, that area close to it, some military support vehicles, they've been destroyed. But most significantly, isn't this their main command and control center?
Absolutely. The command center has been destroyed, and believe me, this explosion would have been heard in their offices, in their headquarter buildings. They are so close. It is close enough to one of their nuclear command and control center. This is what our attack on this has, and this kind of precision and our ability to attack has shook them more than any other place. This and I think Sargodha and Bholari, these 2-3 are very, very important pieces in this. And the way we were able to disable their air defense network and do what we wanted. So this would have really been a catalyst in their decision to stop and ring
because
up
then
US.
they realized if they'd gone on for another day, they wouldn't have had an air force left, isn't it?
No, we would have stuck stronger than this, and the Navy was waiting off Karachi.
Yes.
Okay, so it is only because of a restrained nature of our actions that Navy had still not hit Karachi. Otherwise, if it had gone on to one more night, I am sure that even that step would have been taken. And of course, our own attacks would have multiplied to some extent. Even if you take a 3x multiplication, I don't think that would have been serious escalation, and that would have been serious damage on their part.
So, should we have done that? Should we have done that? Because there are many who argue when we were right there. And you know, people like us, people like you and I, and we've all suffered Pakistani state-sponsored terror for decades. The Prime Minister said the first terror attack took place in 1947.
No, we should not mix up and we should not get confused. We went in for this portion after hitting the terrorist targets, saying that you stop. They did not stop. They attacked us on 7th night. In response, some radars on the what was happening on LSU is exchange of fire. But
Correct.
what was hit inside was in a very measured way. On next night, they increased their drone attacks, increased their loitering munition attack. Another measured response was given, 3 more radars, etc. It is when they hit our bases and when we hit Adhampur in a big way and they tried to take out a S-400, then this result happened. So we were measured and we were always giving them chance to stop. Okay, so once we have said that we are taking terrorist targets and they should not escalate and they are escalating, we are measured in our response. So it is not logical for us to have continued beyond a point because it was not meant to be taken to a full-fledged conventional conflict unless they want it. If they wanted to take it, we were ready. But it doesn't mean that we continue. Okay. So when they gave up, it was, I think, a very correct decision.
Asim Munir has made himself a field marshal. There are people in Pakistan mocking him, saying that, in Pakistan, the concept of Form 47, for somebody to be elected a leader. So they're saying, Shahbaz Sharif is Form 47 ka Prime Minister, Asim Munir is Form 47 ka Field Marshal, like a failed marshal. So he's made himself a Field Marshal, but does he have either Izzat or Iqbal today in Pakistan?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And very soon, even Pakistani public will know it. There was nothing achieved by their side. All the terrorist targets were hit. They were exposed to the world. Their nexus with terrorism was exposed. The kind of damage done to their targets, their ability to defend their bases, their ability to defend their country was exposed. And the Pakistani public will know it. And you can't hide these things. You can't hide these satellite images.
No, and when they were being slammed, Pakistani public knew they were being slammed.
Of course, they are the ones who are giving the videos.
They were the ones who put out all these
Bhavalpur
videos.
and Mureed, all the pictures initially came from them.
Yes.
The detailed picture.
So what I want to understand from you now, sir, is initially we hit 9 terror camps and successfully. Then when they tried, we hit their air defenses and punched a hole in their air defense system. And then we hit 13 bases and radar stations finally. Next time, when there's a terror attack, they would know what our strategy is. They will have better air defenses. They will have better systems. What if we can't hit their air defenses again?
No. Even this time, whatever they had deployed and they were fully ready. Once Prime Minister had given very clearly a direction that they will be punished in an unimaginable manner and their accomplices and supporters would be taken care of. They knew something is going to happen, but they never imagined it will be of this level. So they were fully ready. Okay. Let us not. Next time, will they be ready more? Of course they will be. And therefore, we need to also step up our game in terms of whatever is required to be done to be ready next time. And don't forget what Prime Minister has said now, that any terrorist attack will be an act of war. It changes the entire, philosophy, how we can tackle. Okay. It has put the terrorists, the Pakistani army and the ISI in the same frame. Yep. And therefore, what we can do in the opening shot next time can be very much different from what we were constrained to do this time. This time, we just took terrorist target. That next time, if we have a proof, we are at liberty. Whether we do it or not is another matter. I'm sure there will be a very good look at it. But they have been put in the same frame. That is very important to understand.
That's a very interesting point to make, sir, for joining me here on India Today. Thanks. So it's a major, major loss for Pakistan. I now want to bring into this conversation India Today's Sandeep Unnithan to help us analyze the situation better. Sandeep, bring us details. You've been assessing these images very, very carefully. Bring us details of the extent of damage on ground.
Gaurav, again, on what happened on the 10th of May was not a normal airstrike by the Indian Air Force. It was a rampage through Pakistan, from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir in the north to the deserts of Cholistan in the south, Sindh, that's more than 1,500 kilometers. The Indian Air Force has, in the span of just 23 minutes, they have struck 13 targets with great precision. And they have destroyed radar sites, they've destroyed hangars, as you've just shown, and as Air Chief Marshal Bhadoria has explained to us in such great detail. This is possibly the Indian Air Force's largest number of attacks in the shortest span of time, 23 minutes. These 23 minutes are going to echo through the Indian Air Force's history for decades to come. And this will actually set the template for a new kind of offensive air power doctrine that the Indian Air Force has always been doing. But this actually sets the tempo for a new kind of warfare which unfolds in not days and weeks and months, but in minutes, Gaurav. So this
Sandeep,
kind
you
of
and our team have been
devastation.
going over the extent of damage caused to Pakistan in terms of hardware, in terms of aircraft and lives lost. What have you been able to piece together?
Well, Gaurav, simply hitting these number of bases on the ground, it just shows that no airbase in Pakistan is safe. When your country does not have the kind of geographical depth, when every airbase of yours is within the range of the Indian Air Force's fighter jets and air-to-ground missiles, that itself has been a very big strategic signal to Pakistan that it doesn't matter what generation of aircraft that you have, what kind of AWACS you have, what flight refuelers you have, if you're not able to land them at any airfield, if none of your airfields are safe, that's a very big signal. And through all of these attacks, I think that's what the Indian Air Force has demonstrated. This extensive damage that's been caused to command posts, to air bases, to hangars where aircraft were parked in, and we've actually seen some evidence of aircraft being destroyed on the ground as well. Those missiles that have gone through hangars have destroyed everything that is inside them. So a lot of damage caused to the Pakistan Air Force in a very short span of time. It is going to take them several months to recover. It is one thing to replace the losses. The reputational damage to the Pakistan Air Force that's been caused by that very intense rampage that the Indian Air Force is engaged in on the 10th of May is going to take several years for the PAF to recover, Gaurav.
And that's the point I was coming to, Sandeep, because Asim Munir may have made himself the Field Marshal of Pakistan, but a Field Marshal should have won a war. In 1971, when Sam Manekshaw won Bangladesh and liberated Bangladesh from Pakistan, that's when he was made Field Marshal. For Asim Munir, he's had 13 of his bases slammed. He's had 9 of his terror camps slammed. He's had his Air Force, run to him for secure cover. And the DGMO contacted the Indian DGMO, literally, as the Prime Minister said, waving a white flag, seeking a ceasefire. So in his own country, he neither has Izzat nor Iqbal.
Neither Izzat nor Iqbal, Gaurav, indeed. And in fact, as you mentioned, field marshals, back in the day of the militancy in Punjab, if you remember, there were the terrorists who would declare themselves brigadiers and generals and all of that. And they were called self-styled so-and-so brigadiers and self-styled generals. So this is exactly that. Asim Munir can choose to call himself whatever he wants to, because the narrative that they want to craft for the people of Pakistan is that they have not lost a single war since 1947. But world history recognizes it otherwise. We have seen Pakistan not win a single conflict since 1947, yet they keep trying. They've lost in Kargil, they've lost before that in 1971, they lost half of their country. 65, they were fought to a standstill. 1947-48, they did not achieve their objective. So whichever war you look at it, the Pakistan military has leaped in headlong. It's thought of it very tactically, but it's come out, the loser. They've lost men, they've lost machines, they've lost material, they've lost half of their country, and yet they continue with these
and this time they've lost their Izzat. For a soldier, his Izzat, his Iqbal, that's everything, his honor. And Pakistan Army today is a force without honor. I also want to bring my colleague Pranay Upadhyay, who joins us for more on this big story. Pranay, you've been speaking to your sources and bring us the extent of damage. So we've looked at satellite imagery, but tell us more about what human intelligence and your sources are telling you about the losses, Pranay.
Gaurav, you know that after the losses, we corroborate the information through human intelligence. And now we can say with surety that over 200 have been killed in Operation Sindhur strikes, which include 160 terrorists and their family members, and even Pakistani army, Pakistani armed forces took the losses, which amounts to almost 35 to 40 personals, which is a huge in this small operation, in this small conflict with India. And as Sandeep was referring to, after losing the battlefield, they can call themselves anything. I think the Pakistan army is having a fields day. They are taking a victory lap. They are, and as you know that after Operation Azman now, Pakistan armed forces came up with the doctrine of notion of victory. So here they are all they are claiming is notion of victory. They have lost in the battlefield. You know, right from the Gilgit-Baltistan Skardu base up to Bholari and Jacobabad bases in Sindh area. So if all the frontline bases have been hit by the Indian Air Force and deeper, wider, all the military establishments took that hit. And in Mureed, you have been showing those satellite imageries. In Mureed, a strategic weapon storage has been taken out. This is a clear message. In Sargoda, which is considered as the crown jewel of Pakistan Air Force, which houses F-16, JF-17, and even their strategic nuclear weapons storage facility at the Kirana Hill. So all these facilities, and this is just an example of it, Gaurav, that this is the capability, this is the capacity of precision, taking out or carrying out precision strike by the Indian Armed Forces, and this is just an example of it. We haven't gone for a full-scale war. We have just shown just a bit of our capacity and our capability.
That's a very significant point you make there. More than 200 losses, fatalities in Pakistan, and more important is Pakistan Army lost yet another war to India. It's lost the terror war. The nuclear bogey has been called out forever, for a very long time to come. Pranay and Sandeep will continue to track developments on the story very closely. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining me. I want to shift focus to the other big story we're tracking here on India First, and that's the Made in India Kaveri jet engine, and that's undergoing trials in Russia even as we speak. Remember, there was a huge trend on social media requesting the Narendra Modi government to continue funding the Kaveri engine. That's the indigenous fighter jet engine. So this engine, initially when it was on the drawing board, it was planned to be used to power the indigenous light combat aircraft initially, but now we are told it will power the Ghatak stealth unmanned combat aerial vehicle. Still, about 25 hours of testing remains to be done in Russia. The Kaveri engine, like I said, was initially proposed to be developed by the Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, for the LCA or the light combat aircraft. But there were multiple delays in this program. The LCA is currently being powered by the American GE404 engines. The Kaveri engine is being indigenously developed. It's a turbofan engine by the Gas Turbine Research Establishment of the DRDO.
In a major milestone for India's defense self-reliance, the DRDO's Kaveri jet engine is currently undergoing crucial trials in Russia. With just 24 hours of testing left, this indigenous engine could soon power India's longest range unmanned combat aerial vehicle, or UCVAX. Initially intended for the light combat aircraft Tejas, the Kaveri engine project had faced delays, leading the IAF to use American GE 404 engines in the LCA Mark 1 and upcoming Mark 1 variants. But supply issues from the US have reignited interest in homegrown alternatives. Public sentiment is also playing a role. A growing online campaign with the hashtag #FundKaveri has brought fresh attention to the project, urging the government to prioritize indigenous defense technology. There are now active plans to mount the Kaveri engine on a light combat aircraft for demonstration purposes. Simultaneously, DRDO is in talks with global engine manufacturers from France, the UK and the US to co-develop a more powerful engine for India's future fifth generation fighter, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft or AMCA. With final tests nearing completion and policy support growing, the Kaveri engine may soon go from an ambitious dream to flying reality, powering India's future combat aircraft and drones from the skies. With Manjeet Negi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has warned US President Donald Trump of World War III breaking out. This after US President Donald Trump said Vladimir Putin was playing with fire by refusing to engage in peace talks with Ukraine. Now this fresh war of words or this exchange between Cold War adversaries came amidst Trump's growing frustration with the Russian President Vladimir Putin as Russia continues to strike Ukraine, virtually thumbing a nose at the US President's repeated calls to engage with Ukraine on ceasefire talks. At the same time, Russia says it's Ukraine that continues to target Russian cities, including attempting to target Moscow and the Russian president's flight. That, they said, is a red line crossed.
On Tuesday, the US President Donald Trump's Truth Social post warning the Russian president that he's playing with fire got a prompt reply from Moscow. Within hours, the former Russian president posted a cold threat of World War III on X in reply. Dmitry Medvedev is now the chairman of the Security Council of Russia. The Kremlin's official response to Donald Trump's post remained diplomatically restrained. In the backdrop of this war of words on social media, Russian drone attack on Kharkiv region in Ukraine on Tuesday killed 1 and injured 8. Russia destroyed and intercepted over 100 Ukrainian drones over various regions, including a swarm of drones heading for Moscow on Wednesday. Videos circulating in social media show an aftermath of a drone attack on Zelenograd within the territory of the Moscow region. These were similar to waves of Ukrainian drone attacks targeting Moscow and other cities last week, following which Russian strikes in Ukraine intensified. Since coming back to power, the American president has been pushing for an end to the deadliest European conflict after World War II and has shown increasing frustration with Vladimir Putin in recent days. After speaking to Trump for more than 2 hours last week, Putin said that he had agreed to work with Ukraine on a memorandum that would establish the contours of a peace accord, including the timing of a ceasefire. Russia says it is currently drafting its version of the memorandum and cannot estimate how long that will take.
At the same time, there's a lot of nuances regarding the subject of discussions that cannot be sacrificed. None of the parties will sacrifice them because of their national interest. Just like the US, Russia also has its national interest that is paramount for us and for our president.
President Vladimir Putin's conditions to end the war in Ukraine include a demand that Western leaders pledge in writing to stop enlarging NATO eastwards and lift a chunk of sanctions on Russia.
They do not want to hold talks in neutral Geneva, but they want to have them in NATO member state, which is Turkey. You see, it's not about which country will host talks and which alliance it belongs to. It is all about Putin and their desire to postpone. They are constantly looking for reasons to postpone a format which can bring an end to the war.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reached Berlin on Wednesday for talks with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to discuss further military support. Berlin has been the second biggest supplier of military aid to Ukraine after the US. A day before traveling to Germany, Zelensky reiterated his willingness to hold peace talks at the highest level, including a trilateral meeting with US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. While the Kremlin hasn't ruled it out, they haven't committed to any timeline for further talks either. This war is more than 3 years old. It has already divided the world in different camps of pro-Russia, pro-Ukraine, neutral, and the American doctrine dictated by Donald Trump. With no clear commitment, the war could escalate any day beyond the Black Sea, engulfing Europe and beyond. Bureau Report, India Today.
There is clear and present danger of an escalation, and joining me now for more from Kiev is journalist Anna Basova. With me, our Foreign Affairs Editor Geeta Mohan and our colleague Sandeep Unithan. Anna, there is a real threat that this situation could get out of hand. There have been drone strikes and missile strikes. Is there an apprehension in Kiev that things could escalate and deteriorate?
Well, having fourth year of full-scale war and 12th year of regional war in Ukraine, there is almost nothing that can scare us. We have undergone through the massive rocket missile attacks. Now 3 nights, one by one, we had drone attacks, 250 drones just over Kyiv. So personally, I didn't sleep until 4 a.m. So I think there is hardly anything that can frighten us. And especially after having spent several winters with no electricity, no heating, no water supply, no mobile connection, no internet. So we have adapted to everything. There is nothing you can frighten us with. And talking about World War III, in my humble opinion, it is already unfolding, just that we do not call it World War III. But have a look, full-scale war in Ukraine,
Yes.
Full-scale war in the Middle East between Israel and various terroristic organizations. Full-scale war between India and Pakistan.
No, it's not a full-scale war. It's not a full-scale war here. We just punished Pakistan, but that's more a 4-day punishment for Pakistan. But let me just come back, to the point, Geeta. Is this reflection of frustration when it comes to Donald Trump? Initially he said, let me just get to White House, this war will stop. 24 hours, I get into White House, this will stop. Now it's almost 130 days. It's actually, there's apprehension that this is escalating.
Well, 2 things. One, he maintains that these wars wouldn't have happened if he were in power. And secondly, his promises, he's failed there because he thought it would be very easy for him to tell both sides what to do and they'll do it. That's not how countries work. That's not how certainly Putin works. And yes, there's growing frustration when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war. He's not been able to resolve this one crisis. He's not been able to do anything about the Israel-Hamas conflict. And certainly has had nothing to do with the India-Pakistan, on the India-Pakistan front. So yes, growing frustration, and the Kremlin is really not stopping or allowing Trump the space to say what he wants to and get away with it. There's no getting away when it comes to Kremlin and Moscow. So yes, he's getting a response from Kremlin on a daily basis, and now Medvedev has also stepped in.
Okay, and Sandeep, if you were to look at the situation militarily, Russia striking, as Anna was just telling us, Russia is striking very close to Kiev and in Kiev. But then there are also Ukrainian drones that are targeting Moscow and other cities, including attempting to target fuel dumps, ammunition dumps. So from both sides, one, there is escalation point 1, and point 2. Now Europe is going to give longer range weapons and remove the restrictions on use of longer range weapons to target Russia.
Absolutely, Gaurav. In fact, the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has just said that there's going to be no range limits to any weapons that are going to be supplied to Ukraine. Now, that is a very, very big red line that has been crossed. And Merz obviously is speaking up for the entire Western alliance, which includes Germany, the US, and of course the UK and France. And now this means that a whole range of new weaponry could be supplied to Ukraine. It's not just going to be, in the past it used to be every little weapon system that was supplied, like the Army Tactical Missile System, the ATACMS. And then of course you had the Taurus and you had the Storm Shadow. All of these were in the 150, 250 and up to 500 kilometer range missiles. Now this new assertion by the German Chancellor potentially opens up a whole new range of weapon systems that could be supplied to Ukraine to strike deep into Russia. And that is one of the reasons that Medvedev has made that statement about warning of World War III, because, Gaurav, as we know, Russia revised its nuclear doctrine just last year in November. They came out with a new nuclear doctrine which said that not only would Russia respond if there was a catastrophic threat to the Russian homeland, but it would also respond to conventional threats made to the Russian homeland and, of course, their ally Belarus. This would mean that it would now even look at conventional weapon strikes as a trigger to launch nuclear weapons. So we are actually heading into very dark and uncharted territory, Gaurav.
This is very, you know, as you rightly point out, this is dark and uncharted territory. And Anna, it does appear to be a rather scary situation, but is Ukraine getting the kind of weapons it wants and on time? Will longer range weapons or the restrictions being removed on use of longer range weapons, will that fuel this fire? Because just a couple of days ago, we were hearing that there could be direct conversation between President Putin and President Zelensky, and they would try and find a solution bilaterally, or was that only, you know, talk with more action happening on ground?
Well, if you remember last week, Zelensky accepted the challenge and said, okay, if you are willing to talk to me, I will come to Istanbul. So what has happened? Zelensky arrived, our prime minister arrived, minister of military ministry arrived, but no Putin, no Lavrov, no one from Russian authorities. So this is the first factor. The second factor, you know, so-called red lines, there have been a variety of them since 2022. And each and every time they were crossed, nothing happened. At first, Russia alarmed, like it is a red line you are crossing if you provide Ukraine with HIMARS systems. So HIMARS were delivered, were used. Kherson was liberated, nothing happened. Then another factor was announced to be a red line, but each and every time these red lines were crossed and nothing happened. So the notion red line is really being mocked at in Ukraine. Each and every time we hear red line, we start smiling because it has become a kind of an internet meme, but not a real threat. So now, of course, there is always a small probability that something might happen, but after having violated a lot of so-called Russian red lines, we see that they can like produce numerous threats, but actually they do nothing. They just then.
Are you getting the kind of weapons, you know, Ukraine requires to carry this fight through? Because in several areas, there were reports that Russia was gaining territory because Ukraine, they were fighting to protect every inch of territory, but weapons, ammunition, resources were not coming in time. And, you know, in this trench warfare, inch by inch, Russia was gaining territory and Ukraine was losing territory.
Actually, it's not about, well, long-range weapon is always needed. There can be no abundance of weapon at any war. But with that slow Russian advancing, it was another challenge. Yes, Ukrainians were stepping back, but when it is, there is a choice whether to save the territories or to save your army and then return back and win back the territories, but with the saved army. Of course, army is always a priority. You can always fight back for your territories, but you can never revive your army if the soldiers just swept away. And this was also a kind of strategic or tactical step to step a little bit back, but to save as much live army as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
And at the same time to kill as many soldiers, excuse me for such words, but to kill as many soldiers as possible while they are advancing.
Okay, Geeta, from the Russian side, does there appear to be inch by inch, are they taking new territory, and would that be then used as a bargaining chip during negotiations, or is Russia saying till the Dnieper or the Dnipro river, they will retain whatever they've taken?
Well, the negotiations and the talks have a few very clear red lines. The territories that have been taken by Russia, especially Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, and maybe parts of Zaporizhia, because it holds the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, are non-negotiable. Beyond that, there are conversations that are going to be, that Russia is willing to have. But these are areas that you're right, the Dnieper River is certainly going to become a natural boundary if Putin has it his way. Now, Ukraine, for the Ukrainian president, it would be untenable to accept ceding so much territory to Russia. But at this point in time, there's only that much leverage that Zelensky has over the United States of America, particularly Trump administration, and the fact that Europe is not really going to come stand and fight this war if America withdraws, Gaurav. These are realities that the two sides have to understand and live with, and one will have to wait and see whether if Putin and Trump are willing to talk and settle the war of words that we're seeing, the bickering that we're seeing on social media online.
It just seems to be escalating. And, you know, the last 30 seconds I have on this part of the show, Sandeep, this is then World War II, or perhaps even World War I kind of trench warfare. Everyone wants to regain that one more patch of land to use as a bargaining chip. And in this battle of attrition, the one with more weapons and a bigger army, and does appear to be Russia, does it have an edge?
Well, Gaurav, you hit the nail on the head. It's while Russia is threatening World War III, it's actually the situation on the ground is World War I. The kind of heavy attrition that both sides have been inflicting on each other, it is something that we have not seen possibly since the Second World War. It is bloody, it is brutal. And both sides can't advance, Gaurav, from the kind of first-person view drones that are being deployed by both sides. Now, they are two of the most largest manufacturers of FPV drones in the world, Russia and Ukraine. And both sides are reporting literally running into walls of FPV drones. It's almost impossible to advance on the front. So the fronts are more or less solidified, and you can only make advances at very great personal cost, like loss of lives. So we're hearing about a supposed Russian offensive that's supposed to happen in summer, but there doesn't seem to be any signs of that so far on the ground because, like I mentioned, it's descended into very bloody World War I kind of trench warfare with both sides running into these walls of drones, first-person view drones, and even, you know, wire-guided first-person view drones. I mean, this is literally, it transcends, you know, warfare from the First World War to the Second.
Absolutely.
And the overhang of a Third World War, which is the nuclear, you know, elephant in the room, Gaurav.
You know, you're absolutely right. When I was reporting from Ukraine, you could actually see hedgehogs and trenches and trench warfare and tanks in streets of Europe, like you probably read in, you know, Commando comics, and that was happening in front of you. And in all of that, you still have drones and first-person drones, you know, first-person view drones, where you have these drones coming in with machine guns and AK-47 rifles attacking the adversary. It's absolutely bizarre, this battle. Anna, please stay safe. But for joining me here from Kiev, Anna Basova, many thanks, Geeta Mohan and Sandeep. Continue tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. That is all we have for you on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching.